Hi. In my last video, I began discussing the negative impact that destructive conflict has on team effectiveness. So today, let's stay with the topic of team conflict, how it wastes time, energy, and most importantly, breaks down trust. Trust in a team is like grease in an engine. It lubricates every interaction, makes it smoother, makes it easier. Agreement happens more quickly. Less time is needed to explain things and the reason for things. Team members are willing to give each other the benefit of the doubt. So it's easy to see that conflict breaks down trust or prevents it from growing. And in my last video, I talked about one of two major sources of conflict, the lack of role clarity. Let's talk about the other one now, differing styles. There's an old saying that HR folks like to quote that says that managers like to hire people like themselves. That makes sense on one level, in that I think we all naturally like to surround ourselves with people like ourselves. But there's another quote I love, and it says that managers who only hire people like themselves end up breathing their own exhaust. Why? Because they only hear what they would have heard from themselves. There's no diversity, and diversity is key. It's vital to have different points of view and different experiences when teams are making decisions. The more points of view you have represented in your decision-making, the better your results will be. But remember, however different points of view and different backgrounds and different experiences there are, they usually come with different styles, and this can prevent challenges. People just have different ways of acting, listening, speaking. They have different body language. People have different pacing, some really slow and methodical. Some are quick and mercurial, and people have different motivations as well. Think about it. You probably have some really smart people on your team, and yet some of them just don't seem to get along. Oftentimes wasted in meetings while two of them work out an issue that the rest of the team seems to have no part of. When the conflict really gets heated, they're no longer discussing the issue. The issue has become about winning and losing, and this is completely unproductive. A lot of conflict of styles, though, is not invisible, but it's largely unseen, and therefore it's hard to talk about. And as we all know, it's really hard to fix something that's hard to talk about or hard to see. Much of it's subconscious. I once coached two executives on a leadership team who just seemed to be like oil and water. They were constantly pushing each other's buttons. Come to find out, one of those execs had had a difficult relationship with his mother growing up, and the other exec consistently used the same words that his mother did. And this other exec's style unknowingly was the source of the conflict. Now that might seem silly, but unfortunately, it's not unusual. Often differing or conflicting styles are like having a piece of spinach in your teeth. You don't know it's there. But if someone pulled you aside and told you, you'd be grateful to get rid of it. But if no one tells you, how can you fix it? Now, a lot of teams I work with, they work to address role clarity and style awareness in a 2-day session. Each day is devoted to clarifying one of those sources of conflict. I use my own decision ownership process to clarify roles. It's clear, quick, and effective, and I find it much easier than some accountability and responsibility processes that are so involved and over-engineered, they're like trying to get a fly off your forehead with a sledgehammer. And for style assessment, I use the Strengths Deployment Inventory, which I find particularly effective when addressing conflict. Another approach that some leaders like to offer their team members in terms of style difference is individual coaching to address style conflict. Well, I prefer to work on these two sources of conflict together and as a team, because after all, that's where the conflict is happening, not individually. The point, however, is to do something to address these sources of team conflict, or you can just let it go and allow conflict to sap your team of trust, alignment, and effectiveness. It's up to you. After all, I'm only talking out loud.